Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Dees Talk. Today I'm sitting with Tom Van Berckel, who's a coach and therapist. Welcome.
Let's talk about suffering.
Right.
How has suffering affected your life?
It's a big word. I feel in society, suffering is kind of underrated. I think society, a lot of the time we look at the winners. People are doing well, successful in love, successful in business, successful in money. And I guess that's what we call survival bias, this idea that we look for the winners. We don't see the losers. But I think from my perspective, suffering is actually really valuable. It helps us to evolve. It helps us to grow. And it helps us to ask questions, to dig deeper. And I think generally, suffering, is underrated.
And I'd guess a lot of the winners have suffered as well. Like they didn't just become winners from the get-go. They've often had this hero's journey, right?
Right. Many of them have suffered for sure.
Yeah.
And I think I've got my own suffering story.
Right.
And along the journey of suffering, a lot of the time there's something called the wall. I call it the wall.
The wall.
Yeah, and the wall is something that you can't pass. There's no way around it. There's no smart techniques for, bits of advice that are going to help you get over that wall. When you've been totally stopped, totally disabled, that is a different type of suffering, I think. But yeah, no doubt about it. I think generally people suffer in different ways.
Right. So what was your story of suffering and how did that help you to become who you are?
I think there's this, I guess just to caveat that, there's this great thing called the hero's journey. You might have heard of it.
Yeah.
It is the journey of the hero. And it's basically the guy that created was a guy called Joseph Campbell. And he wrote a lot about mythologies and he studied all of the great stories, Star Wars, the Homer, the Odyssey. And he basically mapped out that there was this commonality between all those stories, which he called the hero's journey.
Right.
So the hero's journey begins when your life is going according to plan. You're doing well. And then something happens, right? And what that something means is that it's a call to the unknown, right? It's when things go south.
Right.
And you leave the life that you knew. That could be the happy life, your job, your career, your lifestyle. And you have to go into the world of the unknown. And that's where the journey begins, when you're going into the unknown.
Right.
And then when you go into the unknown in the hero's journey, you face challenges and you face tests and you meet teachers and you meet helpers. Right. And then what happens then is you have to face the abyss in the hero's journey. So the abyss is your worst fear, your worst terror. And you go through the abyss, and then on the other side of that, you come back with new wisdom, new insight.
Right.
And then you come back to the real world.
Yeah.
You come back a new person, a transformed person.
Well, after you've passed through the abyss, or you've overcome this challenge.
After you've slayed the dragon.
Right.
Right. So,
and all these modern Hollywood movies follow that same story arc as well, often, right?
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
So I think for me, the beginning of my hero's journey began when I was 22.
Right.
A long time ago now.
Right. How many years? Well, dare say how many years on that?
Yeah, it was a while ago.
Right.
It's over 20 years ago.
Wow.
And at the time, I got a common health problem. I got genital herpes.
Okay.
Actually.
Very common.
Yeah, it's pretty common, actually. Not a lot of people like to admit it, particularly on podcasts.
Right. Okay.
I think this is probably the first time I actually told the world.
Right.
Actually, it's not, because I wrote a book about it. So,
okay.
I got genital herpes, but I had a really bad case of it when I was young. I was into, like a lot of young people my age, I was going out a lot. I was meeting girls. I was drinking alcohol. I was taking drugs. Right.
Yeah.
Doing what most people my age were doing.
Right.
And when I got ill, I had a particularly bad case where I had like an outbreak every month for about 5 years.
Oh my God. All right.
right? So that was a bit of a bummer because every time I got better, I started to get ill again,
I see.
right? Now, obviously, herpes is linked to your immune system. And so if I'm going out and having fun, every time I go out and have fun, I get ill.
Right, because you're drinking, staying up
Right.
late, not sleeping, all that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Eating junk.
So at the time, I had to kind of give up going out. I had to give up drinking, getting high, and meeting women as well. It kind of wrecked my confidence a lot.
Because especially, if it's active, then you can't get it on with a girl, right?
I mean, it depends who you are, but I'm a particularly sort of, I didn't want to hurt anyone.
Sure,
I
of
didn't
course.
want to
Yeah,
make
pass it
anyone
on.
ill.
Yeah.
And so for me, I had to give up those things.
Sure.
So at the time, those are the most important things that I had
Going.
that I was doing.
Yeah.
Right. So if I give up alcohol, drugs, and women at that age, well, what am I doing? What's going on? So that was a very difficult situation for me. And at the time, I asked myself, or I said something to myself, I said, if I can't have what I want, how can I be happy? If I can't have the things in my life that I really want, then how can I be happy? And that was a question that I asked myself. And I would say that pretty much everything in my life, every single event and story has really been woven around answering that question.
And what was it that you wanted at the time? You wanted to go out, party, meet girls, do that, and all that stuff was gone. So then what were you left with?
Well, at the time, not much, right? But that challenge put me on the path. It put me on the inner path. How can I be happy? Is there more to life? Is there something else other than those things that I had enjoyed?
Which is kind of a hedonism, basically, in a way. Yeah.
I'm definitely a hedonist.
Sure.
Right? Definitely I enjoy pursuing my bliss, pursuing pleasure. And so at the time, it was a difficult pill to swallow. And I ended up writing a book called Herpes Saved My Life. Right? Because it was only because of that challenge that I got into self-development. I became a clinical hypnotherapist. I changed my life. I started eating healthy. And one of the big questions I asked myself as well was, if I can't have meaningful relationships with women, if I can't have sex, then how can I be fulfilled?
Yeah.
Because as a young man, again, that's something that we find quite fulfilling.
Prime directives is just,
Right. And also through sex and love is a lot of the way that people have validation.
Sure.
But I'm okay. Right?
Yeah, somebody's accepted me.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you can't have any of that, then what happens to your sense of worth, your sense of value?
Yeah.
So that was a big question I asked myself. I wrote this book called Herpes Saved My Life. And it was basically helping people who had herpes to say, hey, look, you know what? It's not actually as bad as you think it is. Yes, it's unpleasant, but you can use it to help you grow and evolve. So we all get to tell our own story about suffering. We get to be the victim if we want. We get to suffer if we want, but we can also help it. We can also use it to help us transform into human beings.
Yeah. And the suffering and the victim mindset, I've seen a lot of people fall into that, and that becomes an identity itself, right?
Yeah.
That they end up kind of repeating that both mentally and verbally to people all the time, and every situation can get turned into that. So how did you transform it from a negative thing into a positive thing, and kind of transform into an awakening?
I think the first thing to realize is that most humans deal with suffering by avoidance. Right? Avoidance is the primary way that human beings deal with pain. Right? And we have stuff happens, and then how do we deal with stuff? Generally, we go into avoidance. We avoid triggering ourselves. We avoid pain. We avoid suffering. We avoid anything that's going to trigger our pain in the first place. So, for example, someone might avoid telling people that they've got herpes.
Yeah.
Right? Because if I tell people, it's going to be embarrassing.
Yeah.
And they might avoid telling other people that they've got herpes.
Yeah.
Like their partners, because they don't want to be embarrassed or have shame.
And then infect them.
Right.
Inadvertently,
And they might avoid, women or men.
Sure.
And so if you look at pretty much any type of suffering or any issue that you're looking at, a lot of the time, most people have an avoidance strategy. And the problem is that when you step into your avoidance strategy, you create other problems for yourself. right?
What-
So, for example, if I'm afraid of dogs and I do my best to avoid
those,
dogs,
yeah.
what's my life going to look like?
Or elevators or whatever it is. Yeah, I know people have fear of things. Yeah,
If I'm afraid of dogs, I'm going to avoid parks. I'm going to avoid going out. I'm going to stay in all the time. What's going to happen to me? So our avoidance strategy, and this is something as a therapist I use all the time, is when people are unwell or they're struggling, we look at what is it they're doing that's avoiding, because it's avoidance that causes a lot of the problem, right? And in actual fact, what we do is we help people move towards acceptance, being willing to face and tolerate the discomfort of what they've been avoiding. Now, as a young man, I think the biggest thing that I got into, I became a clinical hypnotherapist. So I was healing myself that way, but I got into the work of Byron Katie. Have you ever heard of her?
right. Is she the one that Course in Miracles? No.
That's
what was her book?
Marianne
I know.
Williamson.
What was her book?
Byron Katie wrote a book called Loving What Is.
Loving What Is. Oh, okay, that was it. Yeah.
And
okay.
she was an awakened woman, and, they called her the woman who made friends with the wind.
Okay.
And she created a system for learning to question your beliefs,
Right.
question your story.
Okay.
And all of us as human beings, we all have a narrative which we tell ourselves about our life, about ourselves.
Yeah.
And when you find yourself in a situation where, can I swear?
Yeah, go for it.
When shit goes south, I did it. Right, when shit goes south, a lot of those beliefs that you had get triggered. What happens? How can I have a relationship if I can't have sex with someone? For example, a lot of people would struggle with that, right? Is that true? If I can't have sex with someone, can I still have a relationship?
Yeah.
So you start to question some of your beliefs. Would someone want to be with someone that has genital herpes? Is that true? A lot of our negative thinking comes up, and Byron Katie created a system that allows you to question your beliefs.
Right.
And most of the time, I would say all human beliefs are not 100% true.
Sure.
All human beliefs, we could say at best, they're partially true.
Yeah.
They're like half thought out ideas, but they're always missing information, missing nuances. So from a young age, I learned to question my beliefs, question my story. And really, it wasn't herpes that was causing the pain. It was the story.
With the story about herpes.
Yeah.
Right.
Story about life. Oh, my life is ruined.
Sure.
Oh, nobody's going to want to be with me. Oh, like how embarrassing.
Yeah.
All of that
I mean,
stuff.
what percentage of people have herpes anyway? Isn't it?
You've got
quite-
two types of herpes. I think you've got herpes 1, herpes 2.
Okay.
The genital herpes, I think it's, 45% now, 40%.
Right. So that's like half. So like 1 in 2 almost people have it. So
Yeah,
obviously you can't ruin your life. Always half the people's lives will be ruined, but
right. But we're looking at it rationally right now.
yeah.
I think most people are embarrassed about it.
Mm-hmm.
Most people feel shame about it. And they don't want to talk about those things because human beings want to look good
Of course.
and they want to avoid looking bad.
So how would you say it saved your life then?
I think it just I think it changed me from being on a path of drugs and alcohol and hedonism, and it put me on the inner path of changing my life, changing my diet, seeking bliss on an inner level.
Sure.
Because if I can't
God's
have those
plan,
things,
yeah.
if I can't have those things, how can I be happy?
Right. And
Right,
then it
and-
made you turn inwards.
Yeah.
So like, yeah. And did you find it then?
Yeah,
Or
very-
did you find bliss inwardly?
Very much so. I think that's obviously a lifelong process for me.
Sure.
But I think learning that what I wanted wasn't out there.
Mm.
And this is another theme that we'll get into throughout the interview.
Yeah.
That most human beings are looking out there.
To satisfy
what
something,
they
to
want.
add something to me.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
They're looking out there for
For
whatever it is.
confirmation, acceptance, love,
Right.
whatever. Yeah.
Right. So when you question those beliefs, you realize that those aren't necessarily true. And I think that system, Byron Katie, I think that really helped me to be at peace.
Is that called what? Loving What Is?
Yeah, it's a
so
great
that's
book.
basically, it sounds like it's based on acceptance then.
Yeah.
A big thing on acceptance.
It's based on questioning your thoughts.
Right.
And who would you be without your story?
Yeah.
What would life be like if you didn't have the story, about yourself or about the world?
Yeah.
And that book is It's a good book. Anyone wants to read it.
Yeah.
And also my book. I
Sure.
don't think it's been published.
Right. So they can't even find it.
I can't even.
What, herpes saved my life? Is not.
No, I don't think it's online.
Okay.
But look,
You have to ask for a private copy.
we can put it in the messages.
We can put a PDF free download if you want, or I mean, if you want to.
Yeah, I'm thinking about re-releasing it
Okay, they're not free then.
after this podcast.
All right. Cool.
So that was the first experience that I had, and I think that was preparing me for the big one.
And that led, and then part of your journey in terms of dealing with the suffering led to you getting into therapy, being a therapist.
Yeah,
And then you started off as a hypnotherapist.
yeah,
So, and did you do self-hypnosis?
yeah. Hypnotherapy is very good.
Yeah.
It works well 70% of the time.
Right. That's like when does it work and when does it not work?
Who knows?
Is it down to the individual being susceptible or open to it, or kind of blocking it? You know, can anyone be hypnotized?
I think anyone can be hypnotized. I mean, we're all hypnotized. Why do we wear
All the time.
Why do we wear the clothes we wear? You know, why do we like one brand
Programming.
over another brand?
Yeah.
You know, hypnosis is the science of belief. Why do we believe one thing and not another? Right? Obviously, we've been trained to believe what experts think. You know, if you go to the doctor if your doctor tells you what's wrong with you, you generally believe it.
Yeah.
You know, why do I wear a particular brand? Why do I believe like one brand's going to make me look good? So how do we believe something? How does that process happen? So I'd say that all of us are kind of hypnotized or programmed,
Yeah.
you know, in different levels. But hypnotherapy does work most of the time. It's very powerful. But yes, some people are more suggestible than others.
Yeah. And is everybody aware of what's happening when they've been hypnotized, or can some people go into like a kind of zone that, you know, because hypnosis always, you know, kind of conjures up these images of people being under the control of the hypnotist kind of thing. So is that true, or is it like you're still there? Because I've never really been hypnotized or anything like that.
Yeah.
When you're in there, what happens? Like,
there's a term called somnambulistic. So somnambulism, there's only a few people, I don't know how many, like 1% of people that are somnambulistic, which means when they go into trance, they sort of, the lights go off.
right.
Right.
It's like
they're out
no
of
longer
it.
saving to memory.
Right,
or
they're out of it.
conscious. Right.
But most people are totally conscious, they're totally aware, like when they're being hypnotized. And when you do, I don't do hypnosis anymore, but when I did do it, you know, you say to your client, they're going to be aware of everything that's happening. And if the fire alarm goes off, they'll be able to get up and leave the room. So even when you're hypnotized, most of the time, you're still aware of what's happening.
Sure.
So it sort of occurs at quite a sort of a subtle level.
It could change in sort of brain state
Yeah.
or something. Right.
Yeah, you judge it basically if it works or not. If someone comes to see you to stop smoking,
Yeah.
and they stop smoking, you say, okay, well,
Well, my
it
wife
worked.
tried hypnosis to stop smoking, stop vaping, and it didn't work.
Yeah.
So
I'd say smoking's one of the hard
ones.
ones, and it does work. But there's this whole philosophy in hypnotherapy, and apologies to all the hypnotists out there, what I'm about to say,
Right.
but there is a philosophy out there that if you charge more money, it's more likely for people to stop.
Oh, really?
Right, so
Okay.
if you charge someone £500 or £1,000, then there's
Really?
more of an incentive to stop.
That's interesting. I've heard the same thing about wine tasting good.
Right.
If it's like, if they've been told it's a more expensive bottle, and even with brain scans that's showing up and people actually getting more pleasure from one that they think is more expensive.
Yeah,
Which
yeah,
is funny.
exactly.
That's interesting. So,
And that goes for a lot of other things as well, right? If you put a higher price tag on that, people.
I mean, look at Hermes, like what they're, doing. Yeah, it's insane. They make it so you can't even buy it, and you have to spend a minimum amount of money in their shops before you're allowed to spend 20 grand on a handbag or whatever it is. It's like this kind of reverse psychology thing.
Yeah.
It's nuts. Yeah. So then you started to help other people after you suffered yourself. And then what other kind of therapies did you start to learn and
I mean, I trained
incorporate?
in the law. I'm a cognitive therapist. I study cognitive psychology and hypnotherapy and transactional analysis. I mean, I studied a lot of different approaches. But ultimately, my goal was always to help people to free themselves of limiting thoughts, limiting beliefs, to help people find inner freedom.
So do you end up keeping all those different techniques in your armory in case you ever need, like, you need hypnotherapy or like, you need or is it?
I do a bit of hypnotherapy, but the problem with hypnotherapy is when someone comes in, you know, their eyes are closed and they sit in a room for an hour with their eyes closed while you're talking to them. And there's also this onus on the therapist, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to come in, I'm going to close my eyes, and I'm going to walk out better.
Right.
And if it doesn't work, it's down to the therapist.
Right.
So you can see
because they're not really participating other than relaxing and listening. Kind of.
Right. Exactly. So I think that the sort of the balance of power is it's out of balance.
Right.
And it does work, but for me personally, I enjoy the chat and the journey.
The back and forth.
Right, as opposed to sort of just closing someone's eyes and.
Sure. So suffering, pain, adversity leading to awakening. So stripping away everything which you'd been, which you'd wanted, and now what do you want now? Like, are there still things you want, or do you find you look at desire and need in a different way now?
I think what happened, the big lesson for me was in 2014. And that's when I got a really bad visual vertigo.
Right.
So the vestibular is an organ in your ear. And many people have vestibular problems. There's labyrinthitis, you might have heard of, which is dizziness.
Yeah.
There's Meniere's disease. There's benign postural visual vertigo. There's visual vertigo. There's a whole range of real nasties,
Right.
which are sort of balance issues.
So visual vertigo. So that's just like you just suddenly start feeling dizzy. What causes it? What triggers it?
It's very difficult to describe it to someone. You know, it's horrible.
Right.
There's all sorts of things that can trigger it. I was going through an awakening process anyway.
Right.
In 2014, something called a Kundalini process.
No way.
Yeah.
Your Kundalini awakened.
Yeah.
Right. And how long did that last? Like.
Well, it can last a lifetime. You know, there's all sorts of things that can trigger a Kundalini process. Everything from accidents, you know, childbirth, meditative experiences.
Yeah.
There's a whole range of different sort of
Triggers.
events that can trigger that. And you've also got people who are actively trying to
Awaken it
themselves through Kundalini yoga and all sorts of other approaches.
Right. And would you recommend it or not?
I definitely would not recommend it. No.
Oh, really?
No.
Yeah, everyone says it's like kind of involves quite a bit of suffering and it's quite intense and can be quite dangerous even.
I think it depends. It depends on the person. I think generally, as a rule, I think you can only go through it when you're ready,
Right.
more or less. But it depends. There are people that have pleasurable awakenings. If we look at the spiritual world, we look at people like Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah.
And most of the time when you look at those people, even if they had incredible awakenings, they still went through a period of intense suffering. Eckhart Tolle was suicidal.
Yeah.
Before he was depressed, he was sitting on a park bench.
Yeah.
And there are people like, for example, Michael Singer, who wrote a famous book called Untethered Soul. And those guys had incredible awakenings. You know, they just suddenly woke up and they were like, oh my goodness, this is incredible.
Right.
But even Byron Katie, you know, who wrote the book Loving What Is, she was in a halfway home. She was going crazy right before, like, she had her awakening. So it's generally suffering attached to awakening. But there's somebody else you should interview, by the way. I'll give you the details later, who runs a Kundalini group. And that's people that are going through a Kundalini process from all walks of life. And no two awakenings are the same. And some of them do have extreme suffering. And some of them do have enjoyable experiences as well. So there's no sort of one fixed process. But I would say I would encourage people to, because we're all awakening anyway, right?
I mean, how would you know that a Kundalini awakening is happening?
For me, I had energy rushing up my spine, which is a classic experience.
Well, like you would suddenly feel.
Yeah, it was permanent. It was like like a gas pipe pumping,
Really?
you know, energy. And to be honest with you, that was pretty scary when it's happening.
So it almost felt physical then.
Yeah, well, it was physical.
Right.
Yeah, it was.
Like
That's
a
scary.
24/7.
Yeah, like on and off, like throughout the day and in the evening. And there's also a lot of other phenomena to deal with, difficult challenges. You know, my visual vertigo was just one of many excruciating problems that I was having to deal with at the time. So it is very challenging, and ultimately, a Kundalini awakening process is a destruction of oneself. It is a breaking down of the old self, that old story that we have, that story of oneself, and that is very challenging. And that can happen in many different ways. That can happen on an inner level, but it can also happen in your life circumstances. And a lot of the time, awakening experiences are when people go through, crushing life experiences, and they experience something called an ego death.
Yeah.
Which can be to do with the loss of career, loss of money, loss of relationship.
Like being destroyed in some way, your previous sense of self being destroyed.
Very much so.
Right.
Which is why when you, a lot of people go through awakening processes when they go through life crisis, when their sense of self that they thought, it was who they were suddenly changes.
That can trigger it, right?
Yeah.
When you go through the pain, yeah. So when you would feel these, so you'd feel rushes of gas going up because I've seen it online, at least animations of it. It's always like people's chakras lighting up and this kind of uncoiling, because that's what Kundalini is. It's like some kind of uncoiling of some energy. And then, I've spoken to a couple of other friends that have claimed to have had something similar, and they claim that it's scary a bit, but then also that it's like an awakening as well. So what else was accompanied with the awakening?
Visual vertigo.
Oh, right.
Yeah, all of that. As you get a self which is deconstructed, you have more openness, more freedom. Right. Your sense of self stops being sort of condensed into a narrow kind of self, and it becomes more expansive,
right?
More open, but
less fixed. Yeah,
less fixed. But for me, that was a very slow process that happened over a decade. Right. And I can walk you through how all that happened. Yes. But some people will have a moment like an epiphany.
Like a vroom, and then
some
they
right, they're having an epiphany.
Awaken.
And they're walking around with a big smile on their face.
And a halo above their head.
Right. And other people will go through 10 years of hell. Right. And then they'll have their moment. No two awakenings are the same. And from what I understand, it's based on your nervous system and how you're wired up and the lessons that you've got to learn. But for me, mine one was definitely a path of pain and suffering.
Right.
For sure.
And would you say you're still in pain, or have you gone now beyond pain? Or are you still?
I'm still in pain, but I'm used to it.
Okay. What kind of pain? What, the visual vertigo is still a thing now and then?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, look, I'll back up a little bit. When I got ill, I couldn't work. I couldn't use technology. I couldn't look at any moving images. I couldn't have television. I couldn't use telephones. Like, I was sensitive to what came out of a phone. I don't know what is in a phone. But when I put a phone up to my head, I had electrical waves going into my head. And when I used the headphones, it was just going into my head and down the nerves. So I was highly sensitive. I couldn't use technology. I couldn't leave the house. I couldn't use public transport. I couldn't drive. I couldn't walk to the park. I was totally disabled for a long time.
Wow.
So, over time, I've learned to, obviously I've become more robust. But I still, I haven't got on the tube in a decade.
Wow.
I haven't got on a train. I've gone on a couple of flights, but not many. So I still live under I don't go to Glastonbury anymore.
Right. Because there's too many flashing lights and
too much stimulation.
Stimulation. Right. So has any of that, this all sounds quite, horrible, a lot of it. Is there any upside of the Kundalini awakening? Is it accompanied with, like, I guess you're saying the sort of ego death or the crush, the sort of breaking down of your previous, sense of who you were, and then it's replaced by a kind of more openness to everything, right? Or like a higher sense of awareness or consciousness? Is there insights about the nature of reality and the universe, anything like that?
It's different for everyone.
Yeah.
For me, When my life got stripped, I became a nobody. What is a nobody? You know, it's an acquired taste. Like for me, a nobody was who am I without the story? Who am I without the fun events, the trips out, the nice dinners? Who am I without a career, without a dream, without a mission? Who am I with nothing to talk about, with nothing to say? Who am I? I was living at home with my mum. You know, I was living a very quiet life. And so when you strip all of that back now, what I realized was underneath it all, there was a fear. And the fear underneath it all was without those things, I'm not enough. The first thing I realized was that I'd become addicted or hooked on stimulation. And when I mean stimulation, I mean Netflix, I mean coffee, I mean all the things that I did that helped me to enjoy life, helped me to feel okay. And one thing I was addicted to most was a dream. A dream. So before I had a vision for my life.
Right.
I had a vision. Where am I going?
Yeah.
Like, what's the mission?
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
I was hooked on the mission. Right.
Right.
And so when all of that gets stripped away, who am I without any of that? Like it didn't matter how in the past, it didn't matter how bad things were. Like if I had a exciting mission.
Yeah.
Then
well, that's kind of gets you up in the morning, gets you going, right? I mean,
right.
Is that necessarily a bad thing? Or I guess it's ego related in a way because it's like my mission, right? Like, but isn't that one of the I mean, when you look at the blue zones, you know, which are the areas in the world that have the most number of centenarians, you know, kind of people living old and healthily. One of the main things they say is that they don't have a sense of they don't have a concept of retirement in a lot of them, so that even the elderly still have a sense of purpose, a sense of mission in a way. I mean, so is that necessarily a bad thing, or do you think we'll all need to strip that away? Or
it's not bad. I just got to experience for myself that was a crutch,
right,
for me
to avoid.
And we all have crutches. Like for me, that sense of vision meant that I could avoid the present moment because my attention was on the future.
Yeah.
Right. And most human beings, if you look where their attention is, it's not in the present moment. It's either in the future or the past. And so for me personally, I can only share about the experience that I went through.
Yeah.
But I got to experience myself without a future.
Right.
Without a mission. Right. Everything fell apart. And what I realized that when all of that fell apart, there was a fear. And for me, the fear was that I wasn't enough. And most of the time, most human beings, they will have a fear that drives them on. Fear of not being enough, a fear of not being valued, a fear of not being accepted, a fear of not belonging. There's many different core fears that people have. And that underneath everything that I've been doing in my life for the last however many years, 35 years, there was that fear. So I got to experience the world without all of that stuff stripped away.
Fear.
And then there was that fear of not being enough. And then underneath that fear of not being enough, obviously that life's okay and I'm okay.
So did you get beyond that?
Yeah, I got beyond that.
Right. And then what's that like?
That's the good. That's the good bit.
Right.
Right. That's freedom.
Right.
That's freedom. That's freedom from having to be anyone.
Right.
Freedom to be a nobody.
Sure.
Freedom to not have to do anything, achieve anything,
prove anything, be accepted by anyone.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was an exciting, like new experience for me. But that wasn't like a moment of sudden awakening. That was like 4 or 5 years in of having, because I was always an incredibly determined person.
Yeah.
I was just a very, very driven person. And that drive had to be kind of subdued. So I think at the beginning of our call, I mentioned this thing called the wall.
Yeah.
Right? When you meet the wall enough times, you have to surrender. Take a break. Have a breath. Relax.
So the wall is like when you just hit some block in what you're doing.
It could be a serious health crisis. It could be like a fundamental health problem, which is unsolvable in the short term. It could be an injury. I don't know about you. Maybe you've come up against the wall at times in your life when it's something happens where you might have a back problem, for example, when you're literally taken to your knees. When there's no way around it. When things go south, as a therapist and practitioner, a lot of my clients sometimes who show up, they've met the wall.
Right.
But it's a sort of unique experience and definitely an acquired taste, right? Because the ego doesn't like walls.
No.
The ego wants to crash on through,
Yeah.
right?
I guess
Keep
that's
on
always
pushing.
been my attitude, is keep on pushing as well. Like, I don't know if that comes from, sport. I spent so much of my childhood and younger years playing sports, which kind of teaches you to, when things are bad, just, get up and get on with it and keep pushing, rather than, which is, sport itself is a competitive thing, which I guess is ego related. If you become totally free of ego, you probably wouldn't be playing sports, maybe, perhaps.
Well, what we know in therapy is that, generally speaking, for most people, we have survival mechanisms.
Yeah.
So something happens when we're young. We make a decision about ourselves. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. There's something wrong with me. And then we decide to cope with that in a particular way. And that we call that an adaptive behavior. So maybe our strategy is to be successful, to be helpful, to be smart.
To be nice.
Yeah, to be funny.
Yeah.
To get it right.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of adaptive strategies, and those are okay, but they're never enough. They never quite help people achieve what it is that they want. Like have much money, have much success, have much love. There's still kind of something missing. And that's because it's been sort of built on a fundamental lie about the self. The fundamental lie is that there's something wrong with me underneath it all, and that I've got to try and solve that problem. And what most people do is when there's a fundamental problem with them, they lose connection with their source, with their self. And what they do is they look outward to solve it. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to get what I need.
Yeah.
And that's the quest. And most people are caught in that cycle.
Until they die.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's even in the self-development world. It's all over the place. It's in the spiritual world. What you want is out there.
Yeah.
You can go and get it.
Even enlightenment, it's like something to get, right?
Right.
Like an awakening. Let's go and get some Kundalini awakening or whatever it is that you're trying to get. Yeah.
Right. That's the paradox.
Yeah. There's nowhere to go. Yeah.
The paradox is, well, the truth is to sort of see that, to notice the structure, to notice what's happening. And there's nothing wrong with having a mission. There's nothing wrong about doing these things. They're fun. But when our sense of self and our sense of value and our sense of happiness, because if we look at reality, right, let's look at the facts. Let's look at how's that game going for people in the world. Like if we would take a cohort of 100 people off the street outside, let's look at how their lives are going. Are they living the lives that they want? And we've been sold this philosophy of going out and getting it and creating the life we want. And I like that. There's nothing wrong with that. But I guess my question is it making people happy? Is it effective? And I guess, is it effective in helping people to be whole and complete?
Yeah, I guess there's part of it is it's a necessity, or at least that's how it's programmed to us, that it's, you need to have some get up and go and make something happen in order to make the money, to get the, to just like feed and house yourself and pay for your internet and whatever else it is you need to pay for. If you have zero kind of mission in life or zero ego and you're just like, I don't know, like, how does that look? How does a society look? Because if we got everybody to be in that state without ego, how does the society look then? I mean, it could be better. Or do things happen? Do people still get up in the morning and make moves, or is it then you start making moves from a different place, from kind of more who you are as opposed to like some other reason?
There's less stress, more peace, more inner freedom.
Maybe you need less because you probably all
Yeah.
do need way less, but it's an endless treadmill.
What
of,
I noticed-
of wanting more and more. Like
What-
whatever level you are on, you can always go for some higher level. There's
Yeah.
always someone higher. There's always a bigger thing, another thing to go. I've got that now. What's the next thing? Like, you know, things, the satisfaction of things wears off, right?
Yeah.
So you always are looking for the next thing. But if we could get to the place of health, shelter, and food, then you're free, right? Because and sometimes you need to do things to get those things, unless you just become like a kind of guru beggar walking around and
You can follow your dreams,
Yeah.
but you can have a good time doing it,
yeah,
right? And you can enjoy life, and your happiness and your well-being and your sense of fulfillment are not dependent on whether you get what you want or not.
sure,
Right, that's
Yeah.
a lie to say that in order to be happy and fulfilled, we need to get what we want.
Yeah.
That's what we've been taught. That's how we've been programmed.
No,
and that's the
absolutely.
game most people are playing.
I mean, my thing is always saying God's plan about everything. It kind of, if things go bad, then I'm like God's plan. If things go well, I'm like God's plan. You know, like
Very good.
It's always just like it kind of, you know, takes me out of it in some way, and just like it's a general like rule that I have for like optimism and things will work out, and these are all happening for a reason. And this adversity that's coming now is actually like a lesson. And if you can be like, I'm thankful for this thing, and you can say that, you can start any sentence with that, even the worst possible thing that's happened to you in your whole life. Like how your book title was like, what was it?
Hope you saved my life.
How you saved my life. You can, you know, in a similar way, you can say, I'm grateful for this because I'm grateful for, and then think of the worst thing that's happened to you. And then you can always complete that sentence with some reason. Actually, it was because of that this good thing happened afterwards or something. Or at least taking that attitude is what I tend to kind of apply in most situations. But I definitely do feel like I have some mission and some kind of wanting to strive for more in me at all times. And even though I've, you know, consider myself to have way more than I probably even need, but it doesn't stop me from striving for more. So, but it doesn't affect me negatively, I don't think. Maybe.
I agree. Look, I called it the land of yang and the land of yin. So in the West, we have a lot of yang.
Which is like the go, get up and go.
Yeah, we have a lot of big stuff, big wins, you know, the big results, the big, you know, successes, the big experiences. It's the yang. Right? We've been conditioned to see the yang and we miss the yin. The yin is the small, the gentle, the subtle, the delicate, those quiet moments, those special moments. And like for me, I'd been conditioned to see the yang.
Yeah.
The world had conditioned me for the yang. And I think having been humbled and gone through hell, I was more appreciative of the yin,
Right.
the land of yin.
Yeah.
Right. And when you see the land of yin, things are very different. You know, you still have your passions and your dreams, but you're already fulfilled.
Yeah. I
You're
mean, I
already
always say
whole.
like, you know, there is no way to happiness. Happiness is the way, you know. You should do things with joy and with happiness. I mean, there are things that, you know, there's sometimes I have to wake up like, well, every day I wake up my daughter in the morning, get her ready for school. And every day she doesn't want to wake up. And there were times that I was like, oh my God, this is so annoying. I'd get frustrated. I'd be like, you got to go to bed earlier. It's the same old story, get frustrated at it. And then I said, look, I could either do this and be upset about it every day, or I'm going to like make it the most fun thing ever. So
Yeah.
then now I've just turned it around and be like, the things you have to do, make sure, turn them into the things you're going to decide to enjoy. So now I make it a fun thing. Every morning I put on music. I take my other little daughter who's only 1 year old, take her up there. We both wake her up together. We drag her out of bed. We all start dancing around, putting on music and just like turn it into some fun thing. You know, that's just one little example. But I think how you approach the problems that happen in your life, make your attitude and your choice of how you're going to see things that are happening is always going to make a big difference. There's people that I know that have horrible illnesses and, you know, could be absolutely down about it, but they have the sort of most positive, uplifting attitude and spirit about it. And there's people that have everything in their life to be happy. Like if they could just see it, but they look at the picture and they just pick out the things that are wrong. They speak about what's wrong with that person. They speak about what that guy's done, and they speak about what can you believe in the news, this, the government, and it's just like, you can, I would say a human mind can turn a heaven into hell, or a hell into heaven. It's all about how you choose to look at things. Like you said, with the yin, like look at the subtle differences, find the beauty. Like I also feel like heaven is here, but you have to see it, right? That's maybe what the trick is. We are in heaven, but the trick is to realize it, or to see it, or to see the beauty, or to see the possibility,
I love that. So heaven is here, and let me tell you why we can't see it. That's the big question.
Okay.
So there's a great story. This guy's searching for the meaning of happiness, and she goes to a village. She meets an old person. Tell me the secret of happiness. And the guy says, I will tell you. Before I do, I want you to do something. I want you to take this spoon, fills the spoon with oil. So I want you to balance this spoon around the town for the whole day. And when you come back, I will tell you the secret. So the person, they go around the town and they're looking at the spoon and they're not spilling a drop. And they come back in the evening and say, okay, so tell me. And they say, well, did you see the wonderful library in the town square? The person says, no. They said, did you see the beautiful market where they sell all the fresh fruit? And the guy said, no. Because this is the secret. You spend your whole life focusing on one thing, you miss everything else, right? And this is the point. When we focus on what we've been told to believe will make us happy, we miss the library in the square. We miss the fruit market.
Yeah.
We miss life. So this brings me on to like a fundamental way that consciousness works. So one of the things I'm trained in is something called Gestalt psychology, Gestalt therapy, which is a cool therapy from the human potential movement in California. And so the way Gestalt works is there are these two things. There's the figure. So the figure is what we focus on, right? And the ground is the background, right? So in any one point, right, you're going to have something that you focus on, right? And you're going to have the ground, which is the background. The background is the context. For example, if I'm living in a capitalist society, that's the context.
Sure.
Right? That means what am I going to be focusing on?
Getting that monies.
Getting money.
Yeah.
Right. And if I'm focusing on getting money, what does that reality look like? Suddenly I've created a particular type of reality of winners, of losers, and of me in that reality. So the context shapes the field. Now, if I'm in a relationship and let's say I'm afraid that my partner is going to abandon me, that's the context. What am I going to be focusing on in the relationship?
Ways they could abandon you,
right?
Or things that could lead to them abandoning,
right?
You. Yeah.
So my attention is going to zero in on evidence that them. How long have they been on their phone?
Right.
Have they?
Who are you talking to? Hey, who's that guy? Why'd you like his photo?
Right, okay. It's going to be focusing on how long on the phone, are they responding quickly? Are they coming back when they said they were going to come back?
Yeah.
So the figure is shaped by the context. So this is how human beings think about everything. Any situation, and Gestalt looks at the way that we focus, like how we focus. So imagine you have a dog and a ball, right? And the dog, what does the dog do?
Dog and a ball or bull?
A dog chases the ball.
The chase is the ball.
Right, it's the oldest game there is.
Yeah.
Like the owner,
Fetch.
fetch.
Yeah.
Right, the owner and the ball. And the dog will do anything for the ball.
Yeah.
The ball is the figure.
Right.
Right, human beings are just the same.
Yeah.
Right, what's our ball? Is it our job? Is it our career?
Yeah.
Is it our relationship?
Yeah.
Right, and it's until we get when we get the ball, we're okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it.
Right, but how long?
Yeah.
How long does it take us to get the ball? Yeah, some of us got the ball when we were younger.
Yeah.
Some of us get the ball when we're older. And some people never get the ball. Right?
Poor guys.
But how's that game going for people?
Yeah.
That's the question I'm asking. I get it. I get that it's working for some, and it's fun. Like fetch is a fun game for the dog.
Yeah.
Right. But have you ever seen a dog playing? I mean, it's like crazy, barking and.
Well, have I ever seen a dog go crazy?
No, dog playing fetch.
Oh, playing fetch. Oh yeah, no. Like, I mean, my mom's got dogs, and one of them is obsessed with the ball. Like the other dog couldn't care less. But one of them, like, if you keep playing, like, fetch the ball, he will play non-stop, and you just have to stop playing because he keeps bringing it back and want to play more and playing more and playing more. So some dogs have that. Yeah, that dog has that, and I guess there's people that have that as well. So what's our ball then? Our ball is.
So the way it works is that when we're young, I call it voids. A void. So when we're young, we have voids in ourselves. We think there's something missing in us, something wrong with us.
What triggers that? Is that by? Is that by seeing someone else with it first? Because a lot of desires come from, people didn't even know they wanted something until they see someone else with it or something sometimes. And then does that make them feel less?
In psychology, I use the biosocial model. So we're born with our biology and our social environment. So we're already born with genetic predisposition, right? And then we're born with our family environment. And together that creates our childhood, but also like how we generate our personality. And generally speaking, there will be either some kind of traumatic event or family sort of systemic situation where we believe there's something wrong with us. Maybe someone didn't treat us nicely. Maybe we were left out at a party. Maybe we were not included. Maybe something bad happened. Maybe we were given inconsistent love from our parents. Maybe we had avoidant parents or distant parents. But for some reason, we felt like there was something missing in us. There was something wrong with us.
Right.
And then so that was the original wound. And then what humans do is they go out into the world to find that. They think, I'm going to achieve something. I'm going to get something, and then I will be okay.
Sure.
So how does that shape how we see reality? If I wasn't validated or accepted by my parents, that's the context. So suddenly that's going to shape. Maybe I'm going to really want to find my partner.
Is that
magical?
Is that conscious always, or no?
No, it's not.
Almost
It's not
always
conscious.
Almost
It's
always unconscious,
yeah.
right?
Oh, when I meet that person, then everything's going to be great.
Yeah.
Then, this magical dream gets created.
Yeah.
And largely that's, incorrect. Of course, there are some kind of beautiful fated relationships out there, but we look statistically, like it's generally not how it works.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure. Like 1 in 2 marriages end up in divorce, isn't it? Well, at least in the West, like a lot of
Right.
Yeah.
So, and the same goes for success. So our childhood environment shapes the context, but you've got to remember that just as the same with the boy with the spoon and the oil, when we're focused on one thing, we miss everything else. So most people live contextual lives, which means that their life is viewed through a lens.
Yeah. Filtered.
A filtered lens, either around money, success, love, relationships. As a society, we've been programmed, right? All sorts of beliefs and sort of program levels to, what's important, what's not, what's good, what's bad, what's doing well, what's not doing well.
What's a relationship? What's love? What's how it should be? Yeah.
So all of those lenses shape what we see.
Right.
What's important? What's figural? What is the
Helps
figure?
you to filter out from reality into.
But as long as we're doing that, we're not in heaven.
Right.
Right. Your question was about heaven. Now, not everyone wants to find heaven. Some people want to play the game and, enjoy the game in 3 dimensions.
Yeah.
Right. And have that feeling of satisfaction and fulfillment. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But my question is, if your goal is actually you want to step into heaven.
Yeah.
Then you don't need to play that game. And that game's not going to get you there. All the great sages, they say, the main problem with seekers is that they're seeking, right?
Yeah.
Because as long as you're seeking, whatever you seek, you don't
You're
have.
looking out there for something, aren't you?
You seek knowledge means you don't have knowledge. You seek wealth, you don't have wealth. If you seek to belong, you don't belong, right? In seeking, you negate what you already have.
Right.
right? So if I want to belong and I seek belonging, then I immediately put myself in a position where I don't belong.
Right.
So
It's almost like people speak about that in terms of manifestation, you know, if you believe in any of that, or at least what people talk about is, you know, imagine the feeling of already having it. Because because that's one of the subtle mistake people make with manifestation is they say, oh, think of what it is you want. If you think, oh, I want this, you are in the state of wanting. Right.
Yeah.
And then that's what will manifest.
Right.
You will manifest more feeling of lack and feeling of wanting.
Yeah.
Whereas if you feel like I've already got it, that's the subtle difference. Then you attract it because you tune to that frequency.
Yeah.
So they say with manifestation, if you believe in any of that. But I always find that interesting that it can be, you know, it's almost like be satisfied already kind of. Then rather than create that feeling of lack and wantingness.
Well, we live in a consciousness of lack,
Yeah.
right? And most human beings are coming from the consciousness of I'm not okay, right? There's something wrong with me. And the way they see the world is through the lens of I'm not okay,
Right.
right? And how do you think the world looks like when you don't think you're okay? Maybe you don't have enough money. Maybe your partner's not right. Maybe the relationship's not right. I don't know. But the point is, like, we're trying to cover up. We're trying to solve a problem. And actually, the truth is that you are okay. So there's something that I want to introduce to you and your listeners. And it's one of the most valuable things that I've learned on the journey. And it's something called intermittent reinforcement. Have you heard of that before?
No. I thought that you were going to say intermittent fasting. I was like, that I know. No. Intermittent reinforcement. What's that?
Intermittent reinforcement. So it's behavioral psychology. So let's say you have a mouse in a cage. Every time the mouse presses a buzzer,
Yeah.
gets a sweet,
Okay.
right? Happy mouse.
Right.
Okay. So every time the mouse presses a buzzer, it gets a sweet, happy mouse. Now, what happens if you take the sweets away? Is it going to carry on pressing the buzzer?
It'll try a bit and then get sad and annoyed and then stop.
Right, it'll give up. Exactly. Okay, so what happens now if we offer random rewards? Sometimes the mouse gets a sweet and sometimes it doesn't. What happens to the mouse then?
It will constantly keep pressing it.
It will constantly keep pressing even if it doesn't get the sweet.
Yeah, because it knows eventually, or it's programmed to believe it will sometimes get it.
Eventually it will pay off. Good.
Yeah.
Now, what happens when you take the sweets away for the second time?
Well, totally. No
Yeah,
more
no more
intermittent.
sweets.
Well, after you've done it, taken it away, and then intermittent. And then,
You've done intermittent
Yeah.
sweet delivery.
yeah.
Yeah, and then you take the sweets away for a second time.
Oh, I don't know then. Well, I guess it would eventually give up as well.
No, stays addicted.
Really?
It's obsessed. It's hooked.
Right.
Right? Random rewards creates addiction. And we know that. We look at, Las Vegas. We look at
Sure.
gambling.
Yeah,
we look
yeah.
at dating apps.
Yeah.
Right? Random rewards creates addiction.
Right.
Right? So let's look at the money game. Let's look at capitalism.
That's all random.
Let's
rewards,
look at
yeah.
love.
Yeah.
Let's look at attention from our partners. Let's look at all of these things. Intermittent rewards, intermittent delivery gets us hooked.
Right. Interesting. So how do we break that cycle? And what does a healed society look like?
I think the first thing you need to understand the pattern, understand the system, because until you understand it, you're stuck in it, right? You're just that mouse pressing the buzzer,
Yeah.
right? And you need to ask yourself if that's how you want to live, and that's what you want. There's nothing wrong with that, but just for everyone out there to know that if you ever find yourself in a toxic relationship,
Yeah.
if you ever find yourself in a relationship that you struggle to leave when you're with someone who's not particularly nice, but you still struggle to leave, then there's a good chance that this is intermittent reinforcement. Everyone in a relationship generally has something that they want. They want to be valued, they want appreciation, they want love. And if your partner delivers
Sometimes.
those things sometimes.
Yeah.
Or they do it a lot at the beginning and then they withdraw.
Love bombing.
Love bombing.
Yeah.
Or maybe your partner wants to have sex with you sometimes and not others.
Yeah.
Whatever they do to control the flow
Yeah.
of what you want
Yeah.
will get you hooked.
Right.
And just understanding that pattern alone gives a lot of people the freedom to leave the relation if they're stuck in a toxic relationship.
Right.
Just that mechanism in itself. So human beings, we are trapped in our needs. And when that's fused with intermittent reinforcement, that keeps us hooked in the game.
Right.
So I guess for me personally, what I realized was that this was something that I was stuck in. And I was lucky enough to be ripped out of the game.
Forced
for a while.
out. Yeah.
For a few years. And so I've had some time to reflect on it.
Sure.
And
you've gone deep on yourself.
I've gone deep. And, you know, for some people, being in the game is a good thing. And they enjoy it. I love the game. It's the best, it's the greatest game of all.
Yeah.
But one way to play the game is to step into heaven.
Sure.
Right, if that's what you want. If you want to find bliss now, you can live in the world of form. And most people are in the world of form. In Buddhism, they talk about form and formlessness. Right, and form is the world of objects, of having objects, of achieving, of getting, of, you know, all of that stuff. And that's cool, but it's a painful life for many people. It is a painful life. And so there's another way.
Right.
That's basically my point. We live in a world in general of scarcity.
Yeah. Well, we
Right.
should be in a consciousness of abundance, right?
Right, we want to have abundant consciousness and we have scarcity consciousness. If we look at love, for example, how often do people get to feel that feeling of love? Like that lovely feeling of love when you're really in love with someone. And I can't speak for everyone. Some people get to have that for their whole life. Many people spend life in a relationship with someone they don't love. That's pretty tough.
That's sad.
Right. Some people will never really have a meaningful relationship and they'll feel lonely.
Yeah.
They'll feel isolated. And maybe they'll dream of being in love one
And
day.
some of them get used to it as well. I mean, I've got uncles that's single and they're like in their 60s and they're like, I'm like, hey, why not meet someone? They're like, oh, it's too late for me, kind of thing. It's like,
Right.
some people get into that as well. But yeah, so let's talk about love. We were speaking earlier before the pod started about unconditional love. So what's your views on that? And that, I mean, we were just saying, I mean, I was saying how I think all relationships have some conditions, right? All relationships have, you know, when you get married, you literally have vows of I promise this and that. Like, let's put some boundaries up. Let's put some rules to this thing that these kind of rules are kind of conditions, no? Wouldn't you say? Or is the aim to get beyond that where anything goes and I'll still love you, or just I'll still be a loving person in general? What do you feel about unconditional love? And is that something which we should go towards?
Yeah, definitely. Look, I think when I think of myself, I've always had a lot of unconditional love in me. Like, I just love the people I've loved. I love them. And they might have some bad behavior and some good behavior, but I love them.
Anyway.
That's just something, that's how I'm wired up.
Right.
Now,
You're just a loving person. Full stop,
it's just how I happen to be.
Right.
Whereas other people, oh, they did this, oh, I don't love, I'm not going to talk to them anymore.
Yeah.
So that would be conditional love. Now, you know, the original CBT was created by a guy called Albert Ellis. And he created this thing called unconditional self-acceptance and unconditional other acceptance. So most people only accept themselves under certain conditions. If I do well, if I'm successful, if I'm this, if I'm that, then I'm okay. And if I don't do things, then I'm not okay. And that gives rise to most people's issues.
Yeah.
They accept themselves only under certain conditions,
Yeah.
right? And that means that when their life goes south, right, they're not very happy. So that's based on this old model of self-esteem, which is esteem comes from the Latin to estimate, estimare. So it's estimation of self, estimation of my value. Same goes for other people. If they behave a particular way, then they're okay. And if they don't, then they're not. right? So that's, again, my appreciation for them is based on them meeting certain conditions. It's transactional. Now, that is what we would call conditional love. Now, as a practitioner, I teach people to accept themselves unconditionally and accept other people unconditionally.
Unconditionally as well.
Now, you might not like their action.
Yeah.
You might not like what someone does, right?
Yeah.
Someone might have done a bad thing, but does that mean they are a bad person? And generally human beings, they fuse the two,
Yeah.
right? And the Bible says Jesus hated the sin, but loved the sinner. Bertrand Russell, famous philosopher, he called it a categorical error. You've got the world of doing and the world of being. They're two separate worlds. But what most human beings do, we fuse the world of doing and the world of being. Because you did a stupid thing means you're a stupid person. Right? Now, this is, I've sort of gone a bit further here because I'm not just talking about love.
Yeah.
I'm talking about conditional self-acceptance and conditional other acceptance in general, like how we think about other people, politicians, leaders, but also our partners.
Yeah.
Right? So essentially, this conditional love, my opinion, is that it's got a lot of problems with it. Right? When it's going well, it's good. But most of the time, a lot of the time, it's not working out well. When I chat to my clients, what's the number one thing people come and talk to me about? Relationship problems.
Right, yeah.
Right. Oh, they're not behaving. They're doing this. They're doing that.
Yeah. But then what do you do if, I mean, then don't you run the risk of just being walked all over or people doing bad things and you just letting them get away with it and letting them continue to do it if you don't? I mean, how do you behave towards somebody who is doing actions which you don't love the actions, but it's interesting because being a parent, you're kind of faced with that all the time, right? With your kids do something wrong. What do you do? Like you kind of have to teach them. And what are your tools? You explain, and you have carrot and stick. You have punishment and bribery, basically, which is generally as much as you might try to avoid those end up being your kind of tools a lot of the time, like, which they're not very satisfactory, or any of them. And they don't feel that way. And you wish you could just explain it and they'd get it and be like, oh, great point, Dad. I'll try that next time. But it doesn't always work that way. Yeah. That's just one example of the kind of relationship with kids. But then obviously you can't be permissive to bad behavior as well. And I guess with a child, it's a perfect example because in a way you do have an unconditional love for them. Doesn't mean they don't annoy you at times. They do, especially with their bad behavior. But how do we deal with bad behavior in others, children, other people, lovers, whatever?
When we're children, we learn conditional love from our parents. It might not be intentional because I'm sure you have unconditional love for your kids. But as children, most of us learn that if I do well, then I'm loved. And if I don't do well, then we've got a problem. Yeah. And that might not be intentional from the parents, but it's generally what people learn.
Yeah.
Now, we all have to ask ourselves the question when we become an adult, whether those adaptive decisions and choices we made as children are working out for us, right? Because when we're adults, we have the ability to write our own script, right? So then we have to ask ourselves, is conditional acceptance working out for me personally? Like for me personally, learning unconditional self-acceptance has been the most incredible thing I ever learned.
About yourself. That's allowed you to love yourself.
Yeah, as a puppy.
Yeah.
Like imagine how you love a puppy dog. Puppy comes into the house, it like poos on the floor, right? It creates a mess. Like you still love that puppy.
So that's how you treat
like,
yourself.
Oh my goodness, look, this puppy's made a mess. And you're like, oh, come here. And you give them a hug.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that's unconditional acceptance. You don't like the fact that it traipses mud everywhere.
Yeah.
But you still love that puppy.
But that's because you forgive it because you know it's innocent of it.
Yeah.
When it gets harder is when you know they know what they're doing.
Okay, so here's the next thing to understand about human beings. We're unpredictable, we're unreliable, and we're erratic.
Right.
Show me one human that isn't.
Yeah.
We're not robots.
Yeah.
In CBT, we say that we're fallible human beings. right? We're fallible. We make mistakes. We are not perfect. Some of us are really a long way away from perfect. But at a deep level, when you say you're fallible, you say you're fallible and worthwhile. You still have value, you still have worth. Even if I don't like what you did, I still accept you as a valuable and worthwhile human being. Now, that is unconditional self-acceptance. I might really, really not like what you've done.
Yeah.
Right? But I still accept you. Now, the problem with most relationships is that they're based on getting people's needs met. So do you know about attachment theory?
Not too much.
So attachment theory, a lot of the time when we're born, our attachment theory is the dynamics that we had with our parents and our family.
Right.
So if we had consistent love
Yeah.
delivered from our parents, they were always there for us, consistent attention, then we become what we're secure. We're secure in love. We're comfortable asking for what we want, for sharing our needs. And we feel relaxed and calm in love. Now, if on the other hand, you had inconsistent caregiving from your parents, sometimes they're around and sometimes they're not, right? How do you think you're going to feel as a child?
I guess more insecure.
You're going to feel insecure. You're going to feel anxious. You're going to feel anxious in love because you're not sure really what's happening. And also there's a doubt of how they, am I loved or am I not loved? There's like an anxiety in love.
I guess there's the flip side of that is like smothering and, letting the kid be more independent emotionally, perhaps, like, and more like reliant. And if it's too, but I'll let you finish. Go ahead.
And then if you don't have parents who are around or they're quite distant, then you learn to manage your emotions yourself.
Right.
You have developed more sort of avoidance tendencies where you're safe when you're like looking after yourself.
Right.
Where you can manage yourself and you can look after your own emotions. Right. But intimate relationships can be triggering because there's fear. It's not safe.
Okay.
Right? So when we're born, each of us have our own attachment model.
Based on our childhood.
Based on our childhood.
Right.
And, as human beings, we generally have needs. Right? Biological needs, the need for safety, the need for belonging, the need for significance, the need for attention.
Mm-hmm.
And these needs kind of drive how we see reality. Remember the figure in the ground, the dog and the ball.
Yeah.
You have the need for safety. How are you going to see reality? What are you going to be focusing on? If you have the need for attention, what are you going to be focusing on when you look at your partner, right? So those are all useful things, but they create the world of conditional love, which is when my partner is attentive and when they're close and supportive, then I feel good. But when my partner isn't attentive and distant, I don't feel good. I feel anxious, right? Our love.
So who would feel that? Somebody, which attachment model?
It depends.
Right.
It depends on the person.
But isn't that quite universal? If you're in like a sort of couple loving relationship, like, part of the reason you've decided to be with somebody is because you want to be with them, right? Or not?
It is universal.
Yeah. So then if they're far and they're distant, then you miss them. If they're someone who you love, or
it is universal.
But should you just be okay, like almost indifferent to whether they're here or not?
It is universal.
Yeah.
The question I'm asking is, how's that working out for people? I know it's working out for some people.
Yeah.
But again, like this is conditioned. Most people's love relationships are about getting their needs met. Now, in the ancient traditions, Sufism, Vedanta, Buddhism, they say that we have our biological needs, but we're also a slave to those needs.
Sure.
Right? We're run by those needs.
Yeah.
Right? And so when you honor those needs, that means your relationship becomes about getting something from somebody else. It's a transaction. You need something from them. And what I'm saying about human beings are erratic, unpredictable, and unreliable. There will be times when they're going to drop the ball. There are going to be times when stuff happens.
Yeah.
And if you're living in a transactional definition of love, then your life is going to be like a roller coaster. You're going to be up, then you're going to be down, then you're going to be getting divorced. And if we look at the divorce rates nowadays, it's something like 45-50% of people are getting divorced, right? I say my hypothesis is that model of conditional love doesn't work.
Right.
It has its benefits, of course, and there's all sorts of benefits to it. But in terms of life fulfillment, inner fulfillment, statistically,
Yeah.
I think I don't think it works out well for many people. And I think if we could be more accepting, more unconditionally loving of our partners, that would lead to more healthy relationships, more enjoyable relationships, less suffering. And for those of us who don't get to find the love that we seek, that we can still enjoy love and enjoy experiencing those emotions.
Right.
It is look, unconditional love and this movement from survival-based love, right? This sort of egoic survival-based love is that I'm looking for my needs to be met in a relationship. And when my partner is distant or when my partner is not meeting my needs, then we have a problem. Your sense of happiness is externally determined by them.
Yeah.
Right? As opposed to your sense of fulfillment being internally grounded.
Regardless of external circumstances,
Like-
including your partner's behavior.
Including your partner's behavior. Yeah. Now, look, if you're in a relationship and your partner cheats on you and you haven't agreed to that and it's not part of your, agreement, and that's a problem, that's fine. You can leave the relationship.
Yeah. And be loving while you're doing that.
And be loving
bye.
It's not easy to get there.
Yeah.
It's a lifetime's worth of inner work to get there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, heartbreak, and I'm somebody who's dealt with heartbreak in my life,
Yeah.
and that is not a nice emotion.
No.
That's something I've struggled with. I spent a lot of my life in heartbreak. And so, we have to ask ourselves the question, is this necessary? Is this useful? Or can I transform it? Now, the ancient traditions say that we can transform it.
Yeah.
The soul, our inner self, is unlimited, it's complete, and it's whole. Our egoic self, our survival-based intelligence, is conditional. And most human beings have been living in a conditional consciousness, right? Which is dependent on the external to fulfill them. Whether we're talking about money, whether we're talking about relationships, whether we're talking about anything, our happiness is based on what's going on out there,
Yeah.
right? So this is a revolutionary shift
Yeah.
in how we see reality.
Yeah.
And doing it through a romantic relationship is exceptionally challenging
Yeah.
because that's when all of our stuff is triggered. And I'm not saying this is the only way, by the way. I'm saying that there is a time and a place for people to do relationship in the way that they want. But for me personally, and for many people I know, being able to connect with unconditional love every morning and every day and tap into the good stuff is something worth having.
Right.
And it might not be easy, but they say, you know what? I don't want to feel shit all the time. I don't want to have to deal with heartbreak and do they like me? Do they not? Or, what are they doing now? Or where are they going? This never ending list of worries. If you're lucky enough to be in a secure relationship and that's working for you, then great. But statistically, I think it doesn't work for many people. And I do feel that, learning unconditional love is an important thing that humanity needs to learn.
And how would one do that? Like starting off with, I guess you start off with yourself first, right? So how would you learn to, I guess it sounds like be filled with love first before you go looking for it outside yourself. How do you do that? Just accept yourself, mantras to yourself. What kind of practical advice would you have for someone?
I think
I want to be more self-loving, and which will hopefully lead to being, unconditional love for myself, which would then, I guess, spill over into unconditional love for the world around.
I mean, there's many ways to do it, and understanding the pattern is the first point, the mechanism, psychological complex of how it happens. Human beings love to label.
Yeah.
We label each other. Human beings, we use language. And the problem about language is never enough.
Satisfactory.
It's never satisfactory.
Yeah, to really describe reality.
It doesn't describe reality. It's a long...
Puts things in boxes.
Right.
Yeah, like that box, that thing means that person's that category of job or whatever, class or income or nationality, race, behavior type or whatever. Yeah.
Right. The labels are never the thing.
Yeah.
The word is not the word is not the object.
The map is not the
Territory.
Yeah.
Yeah, the map is not the territory.
Yeah.
So when you label your partner as one thing, it's like a newspaper headline. It's like the Sun headline.
It reduces them.
It's reductionist.
Yeah.
It's so far away from reality. That person is complex. How did we get to where we are right now? Like any one situation, how did I get to be here right now? It's not like a singular story. There's many rivers, there's many tributaries that came together for me to be here today.
Yeah.
The same is true for love and relationship, right? Our partner isn't just a label. Like they're a complex human being with many different tributaries and many different reasons for why they do the things that they do. Now, maybe we like to believe the story that we tell ourselves, but that story is fake news. It may be partially true, but it's not totally true.
The story about them.
Right. Or ourselves.
Right.
Now, the truth is that, let's say, for example, I labeled someone as a bad person.
Yeah.
Is it possible for someone to be a bad person?
Yes. No.
I mean, look, it's a big conversation.
I'm imagining some guy punching some kid in the face and enjoying it or something. That's totally fine. Love you unconditionally.
It's a big philosophical question.
Yeah.
Let me rephrase. Is it possible for someone to be 100% bad?
Right.
Because when we say
Probably
someone's
not.
a bad person, we're saying they're 100% bad. Because
Yeah.
otherwise it would.
It's like just bad. Yeah.
Otherwise it wouldn't be bad.
Exclusively bad. Yeah.
100% bad.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when you're speaking about labeling people, I was imagining like a sort of cluster of labels, you know. When we speak about people, we are more than just one thing. We are, and we are more than one story, and we are kind of this cluster of stories that I guess makes up our overall sense of self and identity and ego. Is like, I'm this person, but I do this, I also do that, I've done that, I do this sometimes, I'm into this, I'm into that, I don't like that, I like this, I like this, we're like, and the same with our partners and everyone else, we like have these groups of labels about them, so it's not, somebody say 100% bad. No, I guess like we would put people on spectrums and judge them, because humans are also built to recognize patterns, right? As part of our survival. If we think somebody's bad or someone's selfish or someone's, I mean, even in the context of, say, a loving relationship, if your wife throughout history, throughout our evolution wasn't faithful to you, then that is stopping, in some weird way, stopping you. A lot of it's related to the sex and the reproduction of your genes, right? So the guys who were really chilled about their wife getting, shagging around, whatever, maybe they're kind of they're no longer here, or their genes aren't here because they were too chill about it. And the guys that cared more and were more protective and angry and violent and jealous put some boundaries up around their wife,
Sure.
to make their make sure it was them only that was having the offspring. I mean, I'm just making up my own theories here, but it's, there's some kind of, there are some evolutionary reasons behind it. And the same with other behaviors, like that person is, we need to warn each other about, oh, that guy over there, he's bad, he's a liar, he's a thief, he's a this, he's gonna be violent towards you, he's gonna be dangerous, he's gonna do bad things to you. So we kind of have labels as kind of warnings to each other, and if we're too chill about those or too accepting, then I guess those people get wiped out too, because they'll just have, it just takes one psycho to come in and kind of, I don't know. There's a bit of a flip side to the unconditional love thing, I think, sometimes. But I definitely do, my attitude is always give people a chance. And like you said, not 100% bad. Focus on the good and nurture that and like kind of feed that and let that be the story more and give that attention, like the spoon thing, like let the good thing about them be what you kind of nurture in them and let that be the narrative, which then it becomes more dominant. Because you're right, if you do, just focus if you focus on the bad, then yeah, that's not helpful as well. But yeah, it's a tricky one because you do need to identify bad behaviors within a society, that aren't helpful for the society to function in a healthy, harmonious way too. You need to have some labels to like communicate, right?
Right. Okay. I agree. I think it's about like, obviously the examples you gave were like caveman or a psycho.
Yeah.
But if we look at reality,
Yeah.
we look at day-to-day life that we're in. Of course, there's psychos around. I don't know if there are any cavemen around.
No, I mean, I use extreme examples, but that can be, in a corporate situation. It can be in a family situation. It can be in a group of friends, somebody doing something, not totally right or helpful towards everyone else, But yeah, like labels, in general do, that's why they're there, I guess, in some way, to help people because humans are sort of gossiping creatures, and the gossip is how we warn each other of things, right? Of the baddies amongst us or whatever.
Right. Well, I mean, I think we could probably get into the sort of dynamics of gossip another day.
Okay.
But I would say that gossip also causes, when we're talking about someone's character, right, causes more problems, causes problems more often. Like when you're judging people.
Sure.
And I think judging other human beings on their nature is a problem. And I think if we get on to the next topic in our conversation, but when we judge the other, is the beginning of our lower nature.
Right.
Right. Whether we're looking at wars, whether we're looking at violence, we're looking at, conflict, and we're looking at relationships. When we judge the other in their totality, I think we other them.
Yeah.
And that causes separation and division. Of course, there's a right for helpful to label someone, but what human beings do when they label someone, that's like a judgment. You are a bad person.
Yeah.
And what I would argue and what I do with my clients is help them to see that just because someone did a bad thing or a stupid thing, it doesn't make them totally stupid, because that person has been a son to a mother, or they have been a husband to a wife, they have been a father, they have been a friend. Like, can we judge someone based on, one act? Can we judge someone's totality based on, now, like, that's a conversation to have, and there's levels and different sort of graded levels of that.
Yeah.
But the point is, labeling something is infinitely more complex than us just labeling other human beings in conversation, or how it's done in the newspaper, or how it's done in our relationships. At the end of the day, human beings are fallible human beings. We make mistakes. Life isn't easy.
Yeah.
Life is hard. For most people, we didn't get to choose our childhoods. We didn't get to choose our programming. We didn't get, like, maybe we played a role in how our life went, but it's complex. And can we judge someone totally?
Until you've lived their whole life.
Until you've walked in their shoes, at the very least.
Which is impossible.
So you can say someone's partially there. So as I say, I use the word fallible.
Yeah.
And I think learning to forgive each other and learning to be more gentle and softer with each other is very important.
Sure.
I think we live in a culture where we're too critical and, very judgmental of the other.
Yeah.
And I think learning to bring more acceptance and forgiveness is a fundamental quality.
Sure.
In the world, in relationships and in politics, and
towards healing,
and towards healing,
and towards healing. Like, there was an interesting article I read the other day. They were saying that revenge. They've done brain scans on people, and the reaction of the sort of what people go through in their brain when they're just thinking of seeking revenge is almost like a dopamine spike. So it is like an addiction, right? And it probably explains a lot of what's going on in the Middle East. It's like, they did this to us, we do that to them, and then it's just this endless cycle. And there is like a bit of a spike in dopamine of pleasure at even the idea of taking revenge and even taking revenge, but it's a spike and it's a drop. So it's like this addictive thing, right? Yeah. So that's not healthy at the end of the day. What is the cure for it? Apparently is when people choose to forgive, then that changes even the brain chemistry, even out of it. So these kind of old, sage and Jesus and kind of Buddhist teachings are now being shown to be true or to be helpful to break the addiction of negative cycles of human behavior like revenge leads to through forgiveness, right? So, yeah,
Amen.
absolutely.
So there was a woman called Mary von Franz, and she was Carl Jung's protege. She was a psychologist after World War One. She lived through World War One. She wanted to understand why human beings do such horrible things to each other. There's another guy who I talk a lot about, Alfred Korzybski. He was a Polish engineer who lived through World War II. Both of them wanted to understand why this happens. And Marie von Franz, she looked at the witch trials,
Right.
in the 1700s. And she wanted to understand what was going on. And she looked at this sort of psychological complex of projection.
Yeah.
Right. So projection is to project evil or badness onto the other person.
Right.
Right. And that's what they did, right? They believed that these old women and these, they were witches.
Yeah.
And the reason they believed they were witches because people in authority told them they were.
Right.
Like that's one of the biases, is the bias of authority.
Yeah.
Right. So what happened was when they judged the other and they hated the other, that legitimized their bad behavior.
Right.
Right. And it meant that it was okay to treat those other people badly.
Right.
It was righteous.
Yeah.
It was righteous to kill those witches
Yeah.
because they were doing it in the name for good reasons.
Yeah.
And do you know what Carl Jung called that?
What?
He called it possession.
Possession.
When those people had been possessed, right? And it was a way for their shadow to express itself, right? So when you project onto the other as someone who's bad, evil, wrong, and you think you're being self-righteous, I'm right and they're wrong.
Yeah.
I'm the good one and they're the evil one.
Yeah.
And because of that, I can do all sorts of terrible things to that person.
Yeah,
and it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And that was one of the primary psychological complexes that she mapped out. And, that was in the 1700s. We're in 2025 now.
We're still seeing that.
And witch trials are still going on today.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
In
people are
different
as
parts
blind.
of the world,
People are as blind to it today. Smart people, intelligent people, government leaders, journalists are still blind to that psychological complex.
Of the othering of people, calling them evil, justifying horrific acts towards them, and feeling okay about it.
And the labeling,
the
labeling of others, the devaluing of others.
We see it in the Middle East happening in the Israeli-Palestinian crisis, and kind of both ways. Very sad. That's why I think, what's the solution then? I think the solution is always try to bridge the gap in between the other and making them realize how much they are similar and how they're just like you, just want to do that. They basically want all the same things. Most people, they want safety. They want to have a chance for their family to have a good life. Most people do want all the same things, but othering them and not integrating with them allows that. So, what's the solution then? Integration.
I think the first thing is that people are caught in unconsciousness.
Yeah.
They're stuck in their own patterns. I began like the figure and the ground.
Yeah.
The figure, people are caught in their programming. Now, when did you ever hear a journalist or a world leader say, hey, you know what? Actually, I'm a bit biased.
Yeah.
Right. You know what? In actual fact, the way I think about these things is different to how, when did you hear someone say, well, the way we think about things in the West is different to how they think about them in the East?
Yeah.
When did anyone ever say that in power?
Well, we've been programmed this way and they've been programmed that way. So I'm going to behave as a result of my programming right now.
Right.
Yeah, people don't.
People don't say that because they're stuck in their reality tunnel. So there's this term I love, it's called reality tunnel. So it was created by this guy. Your reality tunnel is we are all in our own reality tunnel. We've had our childhood, our experiences, our families, our religions, our programming, the newspapers we've read, the schools we went to, the friends we have, the position where the country that we were born. All of that goes into our lens.
Yeah.
Right? Lens is how we see reality. And that shapes how we see ourselves and the other. And that's programmable. Like, we program ourselves, and it also comes from programming through television and news as well. So everyone has their own lens, but most people don't realize it.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I'm interested in, not in what people think, I'm interested in how we think. Right? As a you've got content, which is most human beings. You go out for a dinner party and you'll chat about your opinions.
Yeah.
Everyone's chatting about content.
Right.
I think this is what's true, or you look at our leaders, they're talking about content. Or now, what you believe shapes what you see, right? If I believe I'm right and you're wrong, I'm going to look confirmation bias. I'm going to look for what supports what I believe, and I'm going to devalue what I don't.
Or ignore. Totally.
Right, and this is how ego consciousness works. This is our survival-based lower nature, right? And it needs to shift, right? So that's how most people think. Most people think. They think through that sort of cognitive bias perspective, and that shapes how they see the world and each other. And so, the first thing is to become aware of that. Let's just hold up. Let's hold up a little bit, and at least someone
I think it's
say,
like first even realizing that programming is happening and that you're a result of the programming of your childhood, of your environment that you grew up in, of the things that happened to you. I think most people don't even realize that I've been programmed a certain way and other people have been programmed a different way. Just to understand that is a huge step. And I kind of realized that when I first started reading Osho years ago, because he's the first person that I read speaking about that. Obviously in school, at least in the UK, they don't teach you any of that stuff. I mean, they're the ones doing the programming, right? Like a lot of it. So they're not telling you, you're like a supple mind that's open and there's many ways that life can happen and you can live and, we're going to force you into one way, but there's many other ways. And then sort of awakening, at least that's what I learned from Osho was, ignoring all the things that happened around the Osho religion or the group that, organized group around him that ended up going pretty wrong. But his core actual teachings, when you just read them, a lot of it is speaking about that and speaking about the programming you get from the religions, from your school, from your parents, and learning to unprogram yourself and to become clean again, or to become raw and to become natural, to be able to be responsive to what's happening around you in a natural way rather than a programmed way. But
I agree.
And meditation is a kind of way into that, because becoming aware of your thoughts allows you to become aware of your programming as well, right? So, which I don't do enough. I go through phases of starting and stopping for meditation. But are there other ways you can advise people to help to deprogram?
Awareness is the most effective tool.
Yeah,
like
it dissolves it.
Yeah, it dissolves it. Just to take some time, but people don't like to do that, or some people don't like to do that because their opinions are their identity.
Yeah,
right. And if their opinions are wrong, then they take that as a personal. There's
attack.
Something wrong with them.
Yeah,
which is why human beings have all sorts of defense mechanisms, like, devaluing what, they don't agree with, or rationalizing or denying.
Yeah.
All of those kinds of defense mechanisms, which are designed to keep their opinion, their view in place. Human beings don't like to be wrong. They generally don't like to admit they are wrong. So you have to be willing to see things differently. And I think when I look at the world today, and, I've recently been writing this book called Rebel Sage, which is really, about why, there's so much polarization, why you have families that are falling out over their opinions about COVID or Brexit or Israel or American politics. And it seems to be like a real problem. There seems to be a real lack of self-reflection.
Yeah.
And, that's always been something that I wanted to understand. But people's identity is a lot of the time fused by what they believe. And that can create quite kind of rigid dynamics.
Yeah.
And I think stepping into process, stepping into how we think, wouldn't it be cool if, as I said, if Keir Starmer or some other leading politician were to say, you know what, I'm going to just reflect on my process today, right? Instead of pointing the finger or judging the other, or I'm going to say, hey, I'm just going to pause and I get it. And I don't see any of that on the world stage.
Yeah, nobody's mature enough to know it.
Nobody's maturing enough.
Yeah.
I do see some of it in alternative media.
Right.
And I do see some people who are willing to stop and say, hey, either I was wrong.
Sure.
Or
be open to new information, to upgrade their opinion.
Change their opinion.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. Be flexible, be adaptive. Yeah. And I think those people do very well. And I think we still live in a culture. I have a lot of my clients who are terrified of telling the truth because they think if they tell the truth, either they're going to be judged, they're going to be shamed, they're going to be rejected. And again, that's our lower nature. That's our kind of lower consciousness. And that's based on our needs of avoiding abandonment.
Yes, to be accepted, right?
To avoid rejection.
Yeah.
To belong.
Yeah.
Those are how people's needs are driving their philosophical views.
Yeah.
In an unhealthy way.
Well, it's probably, they say, I mean, it's been scientifically proven now through a horrible experiment with mice where I don't know if you know this one, where they shocked them and they, at the same time as giving them the smell of cherry blossom. And then they kept doing that. And then they took away the shock. And obviously when they give the cherry blossom smell, the mice would still freak out, right? Like they were about to get shocked.
Poor mice.
Then those mice would breed with other mice that had the same treatment. Then the kids, without being shocked, would freak out when they had the smell of cherry blossom. So what that shows is that fears can be passed down through generation. And I think they did it even to the kids of the kids. So that shows that fears in us can be passed down through our genes, which you think it's just nature or nurture. Well, that's actually something that happened to our parents and caused some trauma or whatever in them, gets ingested into us. And we have that as a sort of, automatic mechanism. Yeah. So probably some of these fears which you're talking about of like fear of abandonment, it probably has come from something that's happened. God knows how many ancestors we've had, what have they all been through, and that's coming down to us. So it's not just unprogramming what's happened to us during our lifetime. It's also somehow unprogramming God knows how many generations of, humans that goes back potentially millions of years, if, or whatever we were before humans, even.
Yeah.
So that's a tall task. And that's why you do get these kind of patterns, intergenerational patterns repeating of people going through the same things often. So it's a tall order to unprogram.
I agree. And look, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
It is everywhere. I'll come back to my original point, conditional acceptance, conditional thinking. If I do this, then this is going to happen. If I'm honest, people are going to reject me. If I do this, then I'm going to be abandoned. There's a culture of conditional thinking on planet Earth right now. And this, in my opinion, is one of the fundamental kind of things that needs to shift in the next 10, 15 years. And, this idea that I think that's one of the things that keeps people stuck in, lying, in pretending, in masking.
Yeah.
But like having leaders, having people that can be authentic, congruent, and to share what's going on for them. And if they're unsure, to be able to say,
I don't know.
unsure. But then we need a population as well that's also evolving and also growing.
Yeah. Well, I think through things like this, through just sharing these kind of conversations, that's part of the aim that I have, is to, try to share, authentic experiences that people are having, and you know, kind of breaking the taboos of the, you know, which you've done today, and thank you for sharing, you know, things that people might consider shameful, but you've, you know, opened up about that and shown how that can be, you know, powerful, and how powerful that was in your life and transforming it and ultimately becoming a positive thing. But yeah, step by step.
I think there are some key things. You know, I spoke about this guy called Alfred Korzybski, and he developed these core tools for helping people to think more clearly.
Right.
You know, we already mentioned the map is not the territory.
Yeah.
Right. And that's Korzybski.
Right.
He created that.
Okay.
So for those of you who don't know, human beings, we have a map of reality. We have our story, and then we have reality itself.
Yeah.
Right. The truth. So if you have a map, like an actual map with directions on it, you're not going to be able to go and buy a coffee shop, buy a coffee on a map, right? The map's just going to cover the roads.
Yeah, it's going to tell you the way.
Yeah, you have to go to the actual coffee shop.
Yeah.
So I might have a map of relationships, like my opinion about how relationships should be, right? But then you got the
real relationship
itself, which is very different to the story that I have.
Yeah.
I might have a map of how my life is going to go.
It's like a guide,
It's
right?
like a guide.
Yeah, but then, whoa.
Most of the time,
Go
our
off track.
guides are, what is the problem with most human beings' guides? It's missing information.
Yeah.
I might have a map of the world, or this is how things are, but I might not know what life's like in other countries.
Yeah.
My guide is incomplete.
Yeah.
Most I might have a political opinion, right? But maybe I don't know everything there is to know about my party or the other party. Most people's maps are incomplete. So the map is not the territory.
Sure.
And that's a fundamental thing to understand. But he also created this idea called indexing. So for example, you know, in the news, I'm sure you've seen how the news likes to label crowds. Right? So
when we had
like
a demonstration,
when we had the Palestinian marches, they were labeled hate marches.
Right.
Right. When there was
anti-Semitic
marches, when you had the COVID marches, they were labeled as conspiracy theory marches.
Right.
Right. It's when you
anti-vaxxers.
That's right. Yeah. When you label like large groups as a whole.
Yeah.
Now, the reality is that any large group is a group of smaller subcategories.
Sure.
So the Palestinian marches, there's going to be Palestinians, there's going to be Jewish people, there's going to be sort of local English.
Anti-war people.
Right, exactly. Now,
pacifists,
it would be crazy to label them all the same.
Right wing.
Yeah, because
whatever.
It's just not true.
Or something.
But, you know, what happens to the opponent's argument? So in actual fact, that crowd is formed of a whole different range of smaller subcategories. And, you know, suddenly the us and them.
Yeah, the tribal
thing disappears.
Yeah.
Right. So the tribal, the us and them, is dependent on these like short labeling sentences. It's like fake news. They're unthought out like generalizations.
Yeah.
And
stereotypes.
When you use this idea, for example, that Korzybski came up with called indexing, suddenly you have a more nuanced, more complex conversation.
So that's by bringing in subcategories
to groups.
Right.
For example.
Sure.
So that was called indexing.
Yeah.
Then he had another one, he'd call it dating. So dating is when, you know, that famous phrase, no man walks in the same river twice.
Yeah.
You heard that one?
Sure, yeah.
Heraclitus.
Right.
Right? The river today is not the river tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right? The same is true for human beings.
Yeah.
You know, if someone did something bad 20 years ago, does that mean they're the same person today? Maybe.
Yeah.
But not definitely.
No.
Not 100% sure.
It's definitely changed.
He's changed.
In some direction in 20 years.
Right, he's changed, but we don't, let's test. So the whole of his model was based on the scientific method, right? Scientific method is I have a hypothesis.
Yeah.
Right, let's test.
Yeah.
Is it true or not? If I get evidence, great. If it's not, let's throw it out. Now, most people's thinking is not scientifically investigated. They don't critically evaluate how they think. They might critically evaluate the world and other things, but when it comes down to what we actually believe, our own process. So he developed all of these ideas. The other one, which is one of my favorites, is multi-value awareness. So most people, they live in a world of either or. Either something's black or it's white. Either something's good or it's bad.
Right.
But in nature, right, there is no black and white in nature. right? There's infinite colors. If we look at temperature, it's not just hot and cold.
Yeah.
There's warm, there's medium warm, right? There's whatever, quite hot.
Yeah.
Okay, there's tepid.
Yeah.
So there's many different levels in between. Now, that's multi-value awareness. Let's take the same in relationship scenarios. Is someone good and bad?
Yeah.
Or are they somewhere in between? Right? Is something right or wrong? Or is it somewhere in between? Like most of the time, a lot of human beings, we're stuck in like black or white, either or thinking. Now, the truth is, most of the time is somewhere in the middle. Not all the time. Sometimes it's close to the end.
Yeah.
Right? But it's generally somewhere within the spectrum.
Yeah.
And then finally, he had this idea. He had a lot of great ideas, but fuzzy logic. So fuzzy logic is a physics idea where something is a probability.
Yeah.
But we can never know something is 100%. We can only know, like, what's the probability that the sun is going to come up tomorrow. It's probably pretty good probability.
Right.
But it's not 100%.
It's not. There could be
Everything is a probability.
Yeah, it's pretty high probability. That
Whatever you think about yourself, and that is a decreasing, you know, it can, most people don't think like that. They think this is a fact. This is like reality.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
Yeah.
And, you know, what Korzybski talked a lot about is everything is filtered through our lens, right? So there's nothing is how it is. It's how it seems to me, how it occurs to me. My opinion on a political situation is based on what I believe my experience is, what it seems to me. I'm filtering it through my lens.
Which is, and your lens is determined by your past experiences.
Correct.
Right. So, and sort of patterns, because humans and our brains, we look for patterns, right? So that's how we make sense of the world. So if we see like, oh, you know, this type of, this person that looked a bit like that did that. And then someone else that looked a bit like them also did that. And then over the course of the next 10 years, I see like dozens and dozens of people that look like that, behaving like that. Boom. That's part of my lens now. And, you know, that can lead to, you know, all sorts of biases, but it is also based on that person's lens is based on their pattern recognition as well, to some extent. So,
very good.
So it's interesting to how do we change our lenses then?
Well, you already realize that you have a map.
Yeah.
Your pattern, like you making sense of reality, is your map. Like, what are you interpreting?
Yeah.
Now, the question is to get a better map. How can you improve your map?
Yeah, high definition.
You can improve your map by understanding more, by learning more, by understanding that you have a map.
Yeah. First of all,
I've got a map.
First of
and
all,
like, what's
map.
your map look like?
And
I've got a map.
Yeah.
And then you can add more information. Maybe add, you know, let's say you've got the Ukraine conflict. Maybe you can add information from the other side to your map.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not just looking at it through the eyes of like the
information,
the Western
it's
world.
Big difference.
Let's look at it through their map as well. So you're improving your map. So there's a great idea. Korzybski had this idea called non-allness, and basically with this idea of non-allness is that there's always more for us to know.
Right, that's good. Yeah,
right, there's always more.
We'll never know everything.
Right, there's always more to add to your map.
Sure.
Right, it's not like I've got the best map now. Right, let's add more. And when you're doing your podcast here, you know, you're adding more to your map.
Yeah.
And I'm sure as you've gone on this journey and you've been speaking to more people, even speaking to me now, right, you're always adding more to your map. So the most important thing is to realize you've got a map.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And that's part of the why I do this is because I get the privilege to speak to super interesting people sharing their knowledge from their map, right, with me. All right, let's do another 10 minutes. You want to wrap up with your book, what's coming out in that and stuff?
Well,
because you haven't even touched on that.
No, we've been talking about all of this has been about the book. I didn't mention book.
Right.
But this is all.
The Rebel
This is
Sage.
all like what we've been talking about, reality tunnels, indexing.
Right.
Like this is all about human beings and how we judge each other. And, you know, the Rebel Sages are the people who speak up.
Right.
And talk about these things.
Okay. Yeah, let's go into that. What is the Rebel Sage?
So I guess
that's the title of your book.
Yeah, I've been writing this book, and I guess it just comes from me. Last few years, there've been so many arguments about polarized issues, So I think you mentioned before, Brexit, American politics, COVID, seeing friends split up, people stop talking to each other.
Over opinions about some political issue or something.
Yeah, we see it in the world, we see it in cancel culture.
Yeah.
And it's everywhere. And I think it causes a lot of problems. And it worries me because I think when you look at a lot of wars, they began by people falling out, right? People judging the other, people labeling the other, people devaluing the other.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what Marie von Franz noticed in the witch trials, or Alfred Korzybski. And I think it's really important that at a basic level, humanity knows how that process happens. Because otherwise we're just stoking the fire.
Yeah.
And I think the birth of alternative media has been really good because it's sort of, the narrative has been broken.
Yeah.
And it's more decentralized.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's more news sort of points and nodes.
More nuances, more like even these long form podcasts, you get to go deeper on issues, go into the nuances, because like you said, it's not as black and white, you know, as things are. So you get to go into the indexing or whatever you mentioned it was called. Yeah. So a rebel sage, a sage is like a guru type thing, right?
I guess so. Look, throughout history, there have been sort of these types of characters. The role of the rebel, you've had the sort of the cynics of sort of the ancient Greece. Right. They were kind of street philosophers. They used to wander around in robes and sort of like, well, they were almost homeless.
Right, but they had some chat, had some alternative ideas.
Yeah, exactly. You look like a wise person. You could have been, I mean, you know, with that beard. But they were kind of wise people, and they shunned society. They shunned like social hypocrisy.
Right.
Like they sort of called out the ruling elites for their sort of crazy thinking. And they were just kind of inspiring characters. And then you had the sort of the fool in sort of medieval times.
Which was like the kind of, that would go on stage and say things.
Yeah.
Right.
They could go on stage and say things.
Outrageous, whatever. That were kind of breaking the taboos of society for what you weren't and weren't allowed to say.
That's right. And they could also say that to royalty, to the king.
Yeah.
They were the only one that was allowed to speak
and
truth
like
to
sort
power.
of mock in a way.
Yeah, and be okay. So that kind of archetype has been around for thousands of years. So the rebel sage, the rebel and a sage, they're both Jungian archetypes. So the rebel is someone who, you know, does things differently, who goes against the grain.
Yeah.
But, you know, our programming as human beings makes it very difficult for us to do that, because we want to belong. We want to be accepted. We don't want to go against the tribe.
Yeah.
Right? These are evolutionary needs that we've had to honor for thousands of years in order to stay safe.
Because if you were alone in the wilderness, chances of survival way less.
Right.
Right.
And as human beings, we want to have harmony. We want to get along with people, and we want to be seen as good people.
Yeah.
Right. So it's very difficult sometimes to speak up, to say when something's not true or when you don't agree with something, and to do it with wisdom. Because most of the time it just ends up in an argument, right?
Yeah.
You've got two sides. And so rebel sage is not necessarily just speaking up, but it's speaking up in a particular way.
Right.
As opposed to saying, I disagree with you, it's more speaking up with wisdom. Right? So there have been characters throughout history that have done that. But I think in recent years, especially with like online, it's very challenging because you speak up and that gets sort of written on the internet, and it's sort of written permanently
forever
for in time. And with this kind of conditional judgment, this cancel culture, you can be labeled forever.
Yeah. It's
right?
true.
Your reputation tarnished forever.
And like you said, once it's printed on the internet forever, then even if you do change your mind later, like if your opinion evolves or you become more mature, more wise, an earlier, less wise comment you made on Twitter or X, whatever it's called now, would be, you know, it's like stamped on the internet, you know, the digital trail forever. Like what happened to Kevin Hart, like lost the chance to, host the Oscars because of some bad in bad taste gay joke or something he made years ago or something. So yeah, I mean, that's interesting that the today's fools or are the stand-up comics, but even them, they've been trying to cancel them a bit as well. But it's very important to maintain them, right?
It's very important.
Yeah.
In a system. So there's certain like systemic forces that rule human beings. As I said, the need for harmony, the need for peace, the need for acceptance and to belong. And for most people, that keeps us quiet. It keeps us conforming. It keeps us playing along. But if we all did that, there would never be any change. So there always needs to be, within any system, there needs to be at least one person,
one rebel
who speaks up. And I think I just got frustrated seeing human beings argue. I was like, well, who's actually looking at the process?
Yeah.
We can have an argument for the rest of our life, but it's not going to solve the problem. Like, we need to look at the forces that shape why people are polarized and why these problems happen in the first place, which was kind of the theme of Rebel Sage and following on in the work of Mary von Franz and Alfred Korzybski. Like, what is it that why do human beings do that, and what can we do about it? I did some interviews for the book. I interviewed Daniel Maté, Gabor Mate's son.
Right.
Who wrote a book with Gabor Mate, the famous trauma therapist.
Yeah.
And he wrote a book called The Myth of Normal. I interviewed Zubi, who was a famous rapper and online commentator, and he blew up over during COVID. But, what they both said was that people who have a sort of a low agreeable nature, right, people that don't really care what people think, are actually able to be the kind of fire starter.
Yeah.
And, Zubi said this funny sort of situation. He goes, most human beings, if they're in a restaurant and there's a fire in the corner, like, most human beings wouldn't say anything, for whatever reason.
They're just too polite.
Yeah, they're too polite, or they don't want to cause a problem, or maybe, whatever. And there have been some... Right, and there have been some scientific tests they do when someone, they'll test someone's response, but because everyone else doesn't say anything, that person doesn't say anything anyway.
Yeah, there's a famous experiment they did with that. Is it the Milgram experiment? Something like that, where they were asking, can't remember what it was. They were doing some test, like asking people which line is longer than that, like doing some simple test and doing it in front of like 10 people, but they got other people to answer.
Yeah.
So, and then even they started off with giving ones that were obviously right, and then they started to put ones that were wrong, but everyone was like saying, oh, A, B, C. It's like C, C, C. And then the guy was like, well, it's obviously B, but since everyone else has gone C, I'm going to go C as well. So they would go against what they see as even being true, something true, just because it's more awkward to stand out than it is to, say what you even truly believe, often.
Exactly. That's exactly what happens. So Daniel Kahneman, right, a famous book, Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow. He was the Nobel Award winner.
Oh, really?
It's a great book.
Right.
But he wrote about humans being predispositioned for being ignorant and gullible.
Right.
And there are two types of thinking, thinking one and thinking two. Thinking one is fast thinking. It's that quick, intuitive thinking that we do to automate. But the problem with that is subject to issues because it's very quick. We don't have all the facts. We don't have all the information. And then you have the second type of thinking, which is sort of slower thinking, more mindful, more contemplative.
Yeah.
So, in Buddhism as well, they said human beings have a tendency for ignorance and illusion. That's our kind of our lower nature. Right. So this is what it's like for most human beings, and all of these tests that we're talking about kind of explain that point.
Yeah.
We're quick to judge, we're quick to label, we're quick to jump to conclusions, we are attached to our opinion, we have cognitive bias, we're looking for evidence to support what we believe, we ignore what we don't believe, we judge the other, we demonize the other. This is all lower nature thinking. Cancel culture cancel culture can be a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Like
Some people need to be cancelled.
if it's done in a good way,
Yeah.
right? But everything has a shadow. Cancel culture is also, there's a lot of negativity to it, and it's also based on a lot of cognitive assumptions.
Yeah.
So, you know, this kind of thinking is rife.
And cancelling somebody for one thing they've done or one thing they've said because you don't agree with it, you know, and taking away their kind of livelihood by cancelling their contracts or, you know, whatever it is, that is also quite controlling and forcing to conform by punishing non-conformity as well. So, yeah.
There's all sorts of expressions of this sort of lower nature thinking of humanity. And in my opinion, it's everywhere.
Right.
And I guess I asked myself the question, who are the people in the world who are leading the way? Like, who are the people that are leading the way to help us to see, well, what's actually going on here? What is the process of our thinking? Like, how can we find a way through all of this? Because most people are caught in a side.
Yeah.
Left or right, black or white,
Yeah.
you know. So I think that was really what I wanted to do. There's this great term called time binding. It was created by Korzybski. Time binding means that human beings, unlike other creatures, we can accrue knowledge over time.
Yeah.
Right? Because we write and because we have language, it means those that have gone before us
We can absorb their knowledge and pass it on.
Right, and we can stand on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah, yeah.
Just time, we're time binders. And in most other traditions, we have been time binding.
Right.
In technology and AI, that's all like time binding.
We're all living off, the previous innovations. Even if we don't understand it, we're using all the technology that some other dudes have made.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when it comes to this particular area, all of this work's already been done. The great thinkers of the world have already understood the cognitive psychology. They've already understood how like ego, survival, intelligence works.
Right.
They've already understood how polarization works. They've already mapped out why humans are ignorant and, you know, suffer illusions sometimes.
Right.
And, you know, they've mapped out the tools and ways that we're subject to deception
Sure.
by advertising companies, by politicians, by newspapers.
Suggestion and
Right.
influence and coercion. Yeah.
Right. It's all been mapped out.
Yeah.
But for some reason, structurally, as a system, we're still like the large majority of people are still kind of stuck in that pattern.
Yeah.
So
Or they're not aware
they're not aware.
of all these breakthroughs that some guys have made and
Correct.
insights they've had. Yeah.
So take the game Scapegoat. You know that scapegoating. So
Well,
you
in
get
general, scapegoating.
Yeah, the
like,
scapegoat.
the immigrants, it's all the immigrants' fault.
for example,
Yeah.
yeah. Or, you know, you've got a boss, like CEO of a company, something bad happens, and he goes, it was that dude. You know?
Right. Yeah, yeah.
It was
okay.
them.
That's right. Yeah, yeah.
Right, so Scapegoat is a game. Yeah, it's one particular type of game. And in order for it to work, you have to have a bunch of people that play along.
Right.
Right? Oh, yeah, you're right. We're going to go along with that.
Yeah.
And then Scapegoat works. But as soon as human beings wake up and they say, hold on a minute, that's a game. It's not real.
Yeah.
That's when we begin to take our power back.
Mm.
Right? So there's all sorts of tools, like, you know, the either or fallacy. Either we do this or it's going to be the end of the world.
Right.
Right? Either we do come up with this solution or it's going to be, right? So that, again, that's based on our own wiring, right? Or the slippery slope.
Right.
Like, we're just got to start here. It's going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. So we better not start.
Yeah.
Like, all of these are tools of deception which play into our own wiring, our own lower nature conditioning, our own fear. So I guess the book talks about not only how we're wired up,
Sure.
but also it looks at, because of our wiring, why we're kind of easy to manipulate and what we can do about that to think more clearly. To live a happier life, it's not just about discerning the truth, but it's also actualizing yourself. And you can free yourself of those narratives, those stories. And I think that's an important part for all of us,
Yeah.
you know, as a society, to wake up to how, you know, how our opinions are shaped and what we can do about it.
and how our programming it, like, and the fact that we're programmed and see how we're programmed,
Yeah.
and then choose our own program or rewrite our own one or clean slate it, and then create a narrative that serves us and society and everyone. Or what would you recommend?
I think that we are already we're an emergent species, and what I mean by that is there's a part of us which wants to emerge. We don't know what it is, but it's emerging.
Right.
And really we need to get rid or to free up, let go, break through our limiting beliefs, our limiting concept of self and others. And in doing that, there's our true nature, our true self emerges, which is beautiful.
Sure.
I don't necessarily know what that looks like, or I don't think it's necessarily something that you design, but I think it's loving, it has compassion, but it's strong as well. And it's fearless. You know, maybe it's a little less agreeable. I could do with being less agreeable.
Right.
I would like to have that.
A bit more
that quality.
Go for what it is you really believe without worrying.
Not caring what other people think.
Yeah.
Obviously, when you get into the world stage or into the online stage, to be able to walk in the fire.
Yeah.
You know, to be able to have people throw mud at you.
And just be
that's
like,
not
well,
easy.
That's it, yeah.
It's not easy because of our conditioning and wanting to fit in and wanting to have harmony.
Yeah.
And wanting to have all of that. But that's a journey, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Day by day. I think that's a great note to finish on, actually. So thanks, Tom, for sharing all these incredible insights and for sharing your journey so fearlessly. And, I hope it touches some people out there and encourages them to also be as brave.
Well, look, thank you, Darius. Thank you for this excellent podcast. And definitely for anyone out there suffering and in pain, I would just, encourage you to know that there's, a lot of good stuff can come from suffering. And maybe I can finish with one final thought, final story that helped me.
Sure, please do.
It's the story of the Zen farmer.
Okay.
And story of the Zen farmer is there's a Zen farmer, and one day his son gets on one of the horses and rides off, comes back, and the horse comes back with another horse. And all the neighbors, they say, "Oh, your son, he's so lucky. He's got another horse." And the Zen farmer says, "Maybe he is, maybe he's not." Next day, the boy gets on the other horse, and he rides off, and he comes back. He's broken his leg. And all the neighbors, they say, "Oh, your son, he's so unlucky. He's broken his leg. This is terrible." And the Zen farmer says, "Maybe he is, maybe he's not. I don't know." The next day, the country goes to war, and all the young men are conscripted.
Right.
But the young boy's broken his leg.
Right.
He can't go to war. And all the neighbors, they say, "Oh, your son, he's so lucky. He's broken his leg." And for me, that was to reserve judgment.
Yeah.
And when I was suffering, when things were bad, I wanted to say, "Hey, this is really bad.
Yeah.
This is terrible. My life is ruined."
Yeah.
And the Zen farmer, that story is what kept me going.
Wow.
Because I knew, maybe it is, maybe it's not.
Yeah.
Let's see.
That's good. Once again, God's plan.
Yeah, God's plan. That's right.
God's plan. Well, thanks, Tom.
Good to see you. Thank you.
Thanks.